Started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second Inupiaq language workshop with BSNC shareholder Gail Smithhisler. Welcome, Gail.
Kuyana.
Yeah, Kuyana for joining us today. Just a reminder, if you were unable to attend last week's workshop, it can be found on BSNC's Facebook page. We will also be uploading it to the YouTube page. You can find it there. While you're there, please feel free to check out our Mazak Dikituak YouTube series. It's a series of videos that celebrate the culture and heritage of our people. If you have any questions today, feel free to drop them in the Q&A or the chat. We have the chat open, so we can be a little bit more interactive. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Gail. Looks like I need to make you a host.
Okay.
Make host. We're also live on Facebook, so if you have any friends or family who want to attend and don't have the Zoom link, just direct them to Facebook.
Okay. All right, can you see the screen that I'm sharing? Okay, good. All right, so I've got the chat box open and I'll try to pay attention to it as I'm going through the PowerPoint. So, ublaluatak, wang tapkarok, nilang mutin Gail Smithhisler, sitngaswak murut, sitngaswak mururunga, my name is Tapkarok. My English name is Gail Smithhisler, and I am from Nome. So welcome everybody. I am so excited to share another hour with everybody and continue our conversations from last week. So I tried to use as many of everybody's feedback that I could. And if I didn't get to it today, then I am planning on including some of the suggestions and words into next week's workshop. So I wanted to focus a little bit more on, sorry, let me fix my screen. I wanted to focus on actually providing you with the information on how to build simple words or phrases or simple thoughts that are actually considered complete sentences. So I'd also like to start off with some interactive questions that you are more than welcome to drop down into the chat box. And I lost my chat box. So what's a word or phrase that you heard a lot growing up or that you use a lot now? I heard a lot of people are familiar with like aka and ana and alapa, which means it's cold, uva, ada, ang. There's a lot of words that a lot of people use very frequently. So with that, there we go. Ara, that's another one. Yep. Sinikduk. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go over post bases. Post bases are used with interrogative, intransitive verbs. And we're going to go over indicative, statements, indicative past tense statements, and interrogative or questions. So the post bases that we're going to review are intransitive verb conjugations. So we're kind of going back into, English class back in school, but I'm not going to stay too long in going over what's a verb, what's a conjugation. It's going to make sense, I promise. So intransitive verb conjugations are added to a verb stem, i.e. a root word, to create a complete thought. So indicative intransitive verb conjugations tell a statement either in the present tense or the past tense. Interrogative intransitive verb conjugations ask a question. And if you would like to also add into the chat box, how high do you know how to count to in Inupiaq? Ada, Ki. Yep, those are all good words. Lisa, thank you for sharing from Facebook. Wow, Amber, you can count up to 25. That is awesome. So, like I said, before we got started, one thing that I tell people to do that I find really helpful is if you want to memorize how high you can count in Inupiaq, you write it out or type it out. And then I like to hang it up in the bathroom because, everybody spends time in there, and it's one place where you can consistently, look at the words and you begin to memorize them because you see them so frequently. All right. So the wonderful thing about the Inupiaq language is how fluid and specific it is. So what does that mean? In Inupiaq, we refer to the subject or object of a sentence in singular, dual, and plural form. For example, let's talk about polar bears. One polar bear would be translated to nanuk. Two polar bears are translated to nanuk. And three or more polar bears are translated into nanut. So you can see with nanuk, you end with the Q and the Q is pronounced further back in your throat. And then with two polar bears, it's nanuk. So you're pronouncing the K and it's right in the middle of your mouth. And then nanut with the T. So it's always helpful to know what plural form that you're using when you're referring to something. Because with English, sometimes all we do is add an S, but that doesn't always signify a difference between, one object, two object, and then three or more. So additionally, when we're creating a simple thought or sentence in Inupiaq, we refer to the subject and or object in the first person, second person, or third person. So that's a lot of 1, 2, 3 to memorize, but it will make sense. So we have indicative, interrogative, verb conjugations, and these are referred to as statements. So with first person singular, we're saying I am, that's me, I'm doing something. When we're doing, talking about in the first person dual, it's saying me and this other person. So we too are doing something. We have first person plural where we're talking about three or more we. So if there's three or more of us in the room, we all are learning together. And we come to second person. So second person is where you're the speaker and you're referring to other people over there. And you're talking directly to those people. So it's a speaker talking directly to the audience. So first person singular, I'd be saying to one person, you are doing something. And if there's two of you, I'll say you two are doing something. And if there are three or more of you, like all three, you know, 5 of us are in the room and I'll talk to 4 of you, you 3 or more are doing something. And lastly, we come to third person. So third person is where I am the speaker talking to you, the audience, about a third party over there. So in third person singular, we're referring to a he, she, or it. Third person dual, again, we're referring to they too are doing something. And third person plural, we're referring to they 3 or more are. So let's say me and everybody else is in the room and, you know, I'm telling you about that group of people over there. That's the third person. And then we come to the interrogative intransitive verb conjugation. So these are asking questions. And again, first person singular, we're asking, am I doing something? First person dual, are we two doing something? And first person plural, are we 3 more doing something? We come to second person singular again, where I'm the speaker talking to you, the other party, and I'm saying, are you doing something? And if there's 2 of you, it's second person dual, where I'm asking the both of you, are you two doing something? And if there are 3 or more people that I'm talking to, I would say, are you 3 or more doing something? And again, we come to the third person where I'm the speaker talking to you directly, but I'm referring to a third party over there. And I'm asking you, is he, she, or it doing something? Third person dual is, are they two doing something? And third person plural, are they 3 or more doing something? So when we're working with indicative and interrogative sentences, we also must be aware of whether our verb stem ends in a consonant or a vowel. You may hear this being referred to sometimes as a mood marker. So how are we going to remember all this? It takes time. It took me a while before I memorized a lot of the verb conjugations that we're going to go over. And to be honest, I don't have them all memorized just yet. But it takes time and effort. The more that you expose yourself to whatever information you're wanting to learn, the more that you'll memorize it and ingrain it into your thinking. So why am I teaching these? Well, these simple grammar rules are probably going to be one of the most useful and helpful tools as you build your vocabulary. So just to go over some of the verb stems and the mood markers that I'm talking about, indicative verb roots that end in a consonant will require the post space to begin with a T because it just flows better depending on, you know, whether the verb root ends in a consonant or a vowel. So indicative or statement verb roots that end in a vowel will require the post space to begin with an R. Alternatively, with interrogative or question verb roots, if they end in a consonant, the post space is going to be beginning with a P. And if they end with a vowel, then the post space is going to begin with a V. So here is a chart that I typed up yesterday. And this goes over the first person, second person, and third person where you're the speaker. And this is the first person, second person, or third person is who you're talking to. So then you also have it broken down by singular, just the one, dual, 2, and plural, 3 or more. And depending on whether it's first, second, or third person, then we have the plural forms lined out. So For example, let's use to sleep, sinik. So if I say I am sleeping, I would say sinik tunga, because sinik ends with a consonant. So we're going to be using this column right here. If I'm telling somebody we too are sleeping, I would say sinik durok. And we three or more are sleeping, sinik dugot. And in the second person, if I want to refer to one other person, like I'm telling someone, they ask, what am I doing? I'd say, sinik lutin, you are sleeping. And if there are two of you or more, I'd say sinik lutik. And if there are three or more that I'm talking to, then I'd say sinik lucy. Now someone comes in and they ask, well, what are those people over there doing? Or what's that one person over there doing? I'd say sinikduk. He, she, or it is sleeping. And if there are two of them that are sleeping and the speaker asks, what are those two people doing? I could say sinikduk. And if there's like a whole crowd of three or more sleeping and the speaker's like, what are they doing? I could say sinikdut. They are sleeping. And I could use nere as to eat. Nere means to eat. Nere ends with an I. So the mood marker that we'd be using is the R column right over here. So again, I am eating nere runga. We two are eating nere ruk. We three plus are eating nere rurut. If I'm telling someone you are eating nirilutin, you two are eating nirilutik, and you three or more are eating nirilusi. And then again, if we're referring to a third party, we'd say niriruk for one person, for two people, niriruk, and three or more, nirirut. So now we come to the questions. So if I wanted to ask somebody, how is the UT pronounced again? It's like in Inupiaq, the U makes an oo sound. So if we'd say like nirirut or let me go back one. Whoops. There we go. So if we have like sinikdut right here, it's sinikdut or nirirut. Because there's only one U, then it's going to be a quicker oo sound. Yep, a lot of people, Alicia, she's saying, I think I need to practice the throat part. It is hard to imitate. It is definitely a different sound, one that we're not used to speaking in English or using. When I was in high school, learning from some of my elders, they would always tell me to imitate some of the animals that are indigenous to this area, like walrus or seals, reindeer or caribou, especially ravens. Like if you ever hear a raven, they're a really good animal to imitate, and just keep practicing that throat sound. Oh, you're welcome. So I always tell people, copy a raven, you know, they make that sound when you imitate them. It's further back here. So you go, oh, oh. And that will help you pronounce like any of the words that have the G with a dot in it, or even the Q. Both are very important letters to become familiar with. Okay, so now we come to the questions. So again, I'll use sleep, sinik, and niri to demonstrate using these post spaces. So if I'm not sure what I'm doing, I could ask somebody, nirivik, am I eating? Or sinikbik, am I eating? And if we're not sure, like me and my partner over here, we're not sure what we're doing, we could look at them and I would say, Nirivinuk or Sinik Binuk. Are we eating? Are we sleeping? And if I'm in a group of 3 or more, we're still not sure what we're doing. Then we look at each other and we could say Nirivisa or Sinik Bisa. Are we eating? Are we sleeping? Oh, Cynic, Michelle is asking how are Cynic and Niri spelled. So Cynic is S-I-N-I-K and Niri is N-I-G-I. And I have those in a little vocabulary bank after this slide. So we'll go over some of the verb roots together, and then we can play around with, you know, asking questions or making statements. And again, if I wanted to ask one person if they're eating nirivin or nirivisik, if I'm asking 2 people, and nirivisi, if I'm asking 3 or more people, are you eating? And then if I wanted to ask if somebody, if like the audience that I'm talking to directly, if they're sleeping, for 1, I would say sinikbin. And for 2 people, I'd say sinikbisik. And for 3 or more, sinikbisi. And a lot of times, if you've ever seen some of my TikToks or Facebook Inupiaq word of the day, I usually start off with kanoritbisi. I'm talking directly to my audience of 3 or more people. How are you all? Kanoritbisi. I did go over the alphabet last week, but if we have time, Alicia, I can go over the alphabet again after I'm done with the slides. So Alicia was asking if the workshop goes over an alphabet, and yes. So if you signed up for the workshop last week, you should have gotten a copy of last week's PowerPoint presentation in PDF form. If not, you can always email me or Bearing Straits and we can get that to you. And Michelle's asking, what is the difference between Vic and pick? So with Vic, again, we're using this column right here that starts with the V as a mood marker for verb roots that end in a vowel. So niri ends with the vowel I, so we're going to use the left-hand column over here to ask the questions like nirivik, nirivinuk, nirivisa, niriva, is he, she, or it sleeping? Nirivak, are they 2 sleeping? Or nirivat, are they 3 or more sleeping? And then alternatively with cynic, because cynic ends with a consonant, the letter K, we're going to use the right hand column over here. Whoops, that ends with the P. So cynic ba, is he, she, or it sleeping? Cynic buck and cynic butt. And Amber is asking, how would we phrase, are we 2 going to eat? So are we 2 going to eat would be whoops, eat, nirivinuk. Sorry, I hope I'm not being too confusing. So yes, if we're saying, if we're gonna ask, are we 2 going to eat? Going to is a future tense, and so we'd have to add a future tense in there, and I don't have that in this material this time. So, but thank you for asking, Amber, and I'll try to make sure that I'm not being too confusing. So again, the left-hand column is for verb root stems that end with a vowel, and then the right-hand column is what we'd use if the verb root stem ends in a consonant, because it flows better. If I were to say Sinigvik, that it doesn't flow as well. Sinigvik, it flows better as you're talking. So we come to our vocabulary. I wanted to gather a bunch of common words that might be helpful for people to kind of practice on their own, creating, a complete thought. So we have niri, to eat. Niri has the G with the dot in it. And so you know that the G is pronounced further back in the throat. We have sinik, to sleep. We have nuaksi, which means to catch a cold. We have naru, which means to be good or fine. And I should have added in there, there's also another word that is nagu, which means to be cross-eyed. So if someone asks you, how are you doing? And you say, narurunga, you just said, I'm cross-eyed. So you always want to make sure if there's like a double U or a diphthong, which is, two vowels in the word next together, you want to make sure that you pronounce them long enough. So naru, narurunga, I am good, not narurunga, I'm cross-eyed. We have kuyasuk, to be happy, winrak, to be sleepy, Inupiaq, to drink coffee, and Inupiaq is also, a noun because that's what we refer to as coffee in Inupiaq. We have Inorok, to play, Izumaluk, to think, which is one of my favorite words to say. I just like saying Izumaluk tunga, I'm thinking. We have Malik. A lot of people that I grew up with, we always used to ask each other, you want a Malik? Meaning, do you want to follow, go along with, or accompany? And we also have Nusik, which my mom uses a lot when I ask my mom, hey mom, do you want to go for a car ride? And she'll say, do you want to take your dog? She really wants to Nusik. And Nusik means to want to go along with, even though someone else might oppose it. Yep. Can I Malik? So then if we want to say, can I Malik in Inupiaq with our verb conjugation, Malikbik. We have Ireyok, which means to help, Sowit, to work, Gongyuk, to be hungry. And a lot of people, at least with my mom, like if you ever go to my family's house, Gongmyu, meaning I'm hungry, it's time to eat. We have Unak, to be hot, and Sungwa, to have hurt feelings. So I thought that these were pretty helpful words and simple to just give some of you some words to practice with that, if you wanted to create your own little conversation, this is a good start. I know not a lot of people have access to all like dictionaries, or like with the Seward Peninsula, since a lot of our language is not well documented yet. I wanted to try to provide at least something. And then we also have some other common phrases. So these are complete thoughts in and of themselves. That if you just say one of these, then it's a complete thought. It's a full sentence. We have alapa, which means it's cold, and a lot. That's like probably one of the more common words that I see. We have anakanga, which means how cute, like when you're talking about a baby. We a lot of people will say kanokitpin, how are you? And that's referring to one person. If you're just asking one person, it's kanokitpin. And then you'll also notice like different dialects say kanokitpin different. Some dialects are just kanuitpin. Some are kanoritpin with a G with a dot instead of the Q, and it's like one word squished together. But more commonly, it's just kind of, I've heard it a couple of different ways growing up. Kanoitbin or kanokitbin. Another of the more common words is Koyana, which means thank you. We also have Iliganang Mik, which also means thank you. And Iliganang Mik is also pronounced slightly different depending on which dialect. I think with the King Island dialect, it's Iligana Mik without the N with the curly tail. But growing up, I always heard with my grandmother's Mary's Igloo dialect, she would always say Iliganang Mik. A lot of people will say ata, which means I don't know, or it doesn't matter, not to be confused with ada, which means like move out of my way. So funny story, when I was younger, maybe like in middle school age, not too long after moving up here from Oregon, I used to always hear my uncle say ata. Like if one of us would ask him a question, I'm like, Uncle, what does ata mean? And he just looked at me and real matter of factly, I don't know. So I'm like, well, if you don't know, why are you saying it? He said, no, I don't know. And then I'm still confused, like, okay. So I asked him again, what does ata mean? I don't know. So I'm like, man, why do you say ata if you don't know what it means? And then I found out a couple of years later, I asked somebody else. I said, what does ata mean? Every time I ask, what does ata mean? They say, I don't know. And someone said, because that's what it means. I don't know. So ata has always stuck with me because of that. Another common word that you'll hear is uva. If I'm like giving something to somebody else, uva means, here, take it. Another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit more about too is, someone will say uva and then another person might say ang. And in Inupiaq, because it is fluid, because we're specific, we have a lot of different words based on like where they are relatively to us, and that's called a demonstrative. So I went over this in last night's conversational Inupiaq class where I was a guest speaker, and they were going over demonstratives before I was able to do my portion of the speaking. And so I thought that was a really good lesson, because sometimes it's kind of hard to demonstrate or explain to somebody the difference between like uva or ang. And really it's just kind of based on, where the audience is compared to you, or the object is compared to like you and your audience. We also have na'a. Like I went over last week, we have the apostrophe sometimes in some of our words, like i'i, which means yes. Na'a, you have the apostrophe, which demonstrates a stop in the word, which means ouch. I grew up hearing that a lot. Someone in my family like had an ache or a pain. They would say na'a, with a lot more emotion or intensity. We have the next word we have is alaka, which means like you're confirming with someone, that's right. Am I right? And I wanted to share this because I think that's one of my favorite memories listening to my grandparents speak in Inupiaq together, is they would be talking to each other, and then sometimes my grandpa might get distracted by something, and if he didn't answer my grandma, then my grandma would confirm with him whether he was listening or not. Alaka papa, meaning, is that right, Papa? Am I right, Papa? And he'd get his attention, and he'd say, Suna, what? A lot of people, if you ever go visiting, someone might tell you itirin if you knock on the door. Itirin means come in. In the North Slope, itirin means to wake up. So it's a good example of, dialectual difference. We have one of my other favorite phrases to say is "Tiraka imna," which means the wind blew it away. And it's, in my family, it's kind of like a flippant, fun way to respond to someone, like, if they're looking for something, where's my paper? Where's the newspaper? And my mom, she'd be kind of funny. "Tiraka imna," the wind blew it away. Another one that I really like is "Ira imna," which means he, she, or it ate it. Like, you're talking about if someone wants your homework or something, "Ira imna," they ate it. And then we also have "No sama." Where is it? "No sama." And I think I might have spelled sama wrong. It should have been SAMMA. So I'll have to fix that. Let's see. So we're kind of at the end. I'm going to go over the chat box and try to answer any questions, and if we have any other things to discuss. So we have Clarissa Madsen from Facebook saying, "I have an Inupiaq dictionary, but a lot of it, I don't know how to say it properly. Is there any classes we can take? This is the first I've seen any Inupiaq language videos like this." Well, so in the fall, I am going to be co-teaching conversational Inupiaq. So if you wanted to attend, it's going to be available either virtually or in person. So if you're not in Nome and you want to attend, you would be able to sign up. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think the class fees or tuition might be paid for by another Native corporation. I have not heard confirmation of that, but they have been paying for a lot of classes. So one thing that I could do is show how I break down how to pronounce words in Inupiaq, if that might be helpful, from like the Inupiaq Word of the Day or TikTok pages. So that's actually a good idea. Thank you for mentioning that, Clarissa. This workshop is really helpful regarding receptive communication. I've tried learning on my own using Inupiatun Ukaluit Taniktun by Edna Ariak McLean, and I now know how to pronounce the words. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Alicia. I appreciate that. I'm really glad that that's helpful. Joy says, I say na to take. Maybe Atna Athabaskan. I forget which language I'm speaking sometimes. That's okay. I kind of get confused like which dialect I'm using. And sometimes like I'll tell my coworker or my boss, like, I forgot how to English today. Can you please be patient with me? So I use English in like a verb, even though that's really not proper. It just makes sense to me when I say it like that. My grandma always said, "na-a-e." Yeah, I've heard that too, Amber. Alakang. I'm not sure. I think that might be like alaka, but with a the kong. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look that up. But I think it might be along the lines of like, is that right? Tupuktutin, like getting scared, maybe.
Oh, yeah, that was me. Dubuk, isn't that wake up?
Yeah,
Time to wake up.
Yeah, in some dialects, tupak is to wake up. And in other dialects, it's to scare. Like, oh, you tupak me. So I forget which dialect is which at the moment right now, but yep, I've heard tupak. like you scared me or you wake me up. I've heard both of them. And let's see, how do we sign up for those classes? Is that through the UA system? Yes. So the conversational Inupiaq class that I will be co-teaching is through the University of Alaska Northwest campus here in Nome. And I think registration is open. I'm not quite sure. I'm still kind of getting settled into actually being an instructor. Can you talk about UNG? Yes. So with UNG, it's A and N with a long tail at the end. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, the difference between UNG and UVA depends on, you know, where you and your audience and the object is. Does BSNC have TikTok? I'm not sure. Does
Yes, we do. We don't utilize it as much as, you know, Facebook and Instagram, but yes, we do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not, like I mentioned last week, I still got my training wheels when it comes to Instagram. So I've only got like the one video posted on there so far, but I promise I'm going to keep posting videos to the new Inupiaq Word of the Day Instagram page. And I try to make sure I reshare, you know, what others share if I figure it out. I need like a crash course in how to Instagram. Will information about the conversation class be made available to us? I can share that information or send it over to Anna when the PDF version of this presentation is sent out, if anyone wants that. Allah Kong.
Which conversation class is that?
Conversational Inupiaq one
Okay.
over at the Northwest campus.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Oh, and Elisha. Okay, she found a link. Elisha found a link for the courses. Let me see if I can share that to everybody. There we go. Thank you, Elisha. Allah Kong, he's right, maybe. Yeah, I think you're right, Amber. Thank you. Might be speaking Yupik too. My grandma is half. Yeah, that's okay. I'm not sure if conversational Inupiaq is listed under my name or if it's under my name plus Megan Silvana Tapcock. But yeah, I think we're all caught up on some of the comments in the chat. Let's see.
Did you want to go over the alphabet again?
Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me. Okay, let me find it and open it up. Okay. All right. Okay. Can everybody see the alphabet?
I can see it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so this is the alphabet, and this isn't just specific to any one dialect. It's kind of, I wanted to give, I debated whether I should only share like the alphabet just for our dialect or kind of like all the dialects. And I figured you're going to be exposed at one point or another to, you know, like the Northwest or North Slope dialect. So I just figured we're all going to be familiar with the alphabet for all the dialects, because I mean, we should, that's a first step in learning any language or being, you know, revitalizing Inupiaq is to be familiar and be exposed to something. So to go over the sounds, we have a, ba, which is sometimes in between like a B and a P sound. You'll see cha, ga, which is an equivalent to an English G. We have the G with a dot, which is further back in the throat, and it's ra. We have ha, which is if you're saying a word in Inupiaq with an H in it, it's going to be further in back of the throat than an English H. We have I, which is E or I. So it's more of a like E sound than it is an it, like the I in it, sorry. We have K, which is ka, L, la. We have the L with the squiggly line through it, which is sha. So when you're pronouncing this letter, your tongue is gonna be behind your teeth like it would be with an L, but then you're gonna blow air through the sides of your mouth. So sha. We have L with a dot below it, and this is usually seen more in the North Slope dialect, and that's lia, which sometimes I have to imagine how a letter is pronounced in my head, and I imagine it as like an L-Y-U-H sound, lia. The L is more pronounced. We have the L with a dot and a squiggly line through it, and this one's always really hard for me to pronounce. It's shia. So it's kind of like both of the other special L's mishmashed together to make that special sound, shia. We have M as in ma, N as in na. We have N with an eyebrow, which is usually more seen in like North Slope and Northwest dialect, nia, and it's similar to a Spanish N, nia. We have N with a curly tail, that's how I call it, and it's pronounced like an NG sound, so nga. We have P, which is ba, which is kind of in between like a P and a B. We have Q, and that's further back in the throat than an English Q for ka. R as in ra, S as in sa, typical S. We have SR, which either makes a shra or sra sound, depending on dialect again. And most commonly, you'll always hear like someone say shik shik around like the Nome area. That's our word for squirrel, shik shik. We have T, which is in between like a T and a D sound, like da, which if I want to say something is over there, like me and my audience are of equal distance to something over there, then I'd say damna, over there, damna. We have the U, which makes an oo sound, not like umbrella, oo. V, which is a typical va, and we have W, which is wa. We have Y as in ya, Z as in za, and we have the ZR, which is jra. And again, the Z and ZR sounds are more common around the Seward Peninsula. Has anyone tried to get one of our dialects in the mobile app Duolingo? I think Navajo is on there and maybe another indigenous language. Sorry, one more question. Do nouns have gender in Inupiaq like in Spanish? Good questions, Elisha. I appreciate that. No, there are no specific gender nouns in Inupiaq. It's gender neutral. And that's one thing I really enjoy about Inupiaq. It's even with like having an Inupiaq name, it's not gender specific at all. And I'm not sure about getting our dialects on Duolingo. I would love it if we'd be able to like study Inupiaq on our mobile phones. But I really don't know who to get a hold of or how to get that accomplished. So if anyone ever knows how to get that done, like, let's do it. I would love it. And then I can go over our diphthongs or our vowels. So again, our diphthongs, the double A makes a long ah sound as in walk. We have AI, which makes a sound like of the A in cake. AU is an O sound like coat, or in North Slope, it's usually ow, like cow. We have IA together, which is Ia, like regalia or Inupiaq. We have the double I, which is a longer E sound like keep. We have IU, which is you, like a female sheep, you. We have UA as in quantity. We have UWI as in gooey. And fun fact, UWI also means husband. Sorry. And then finally, we have the double used together, which makes an ooh sound as in cool. So, sorry. That's about all that I have. Does anyone have any other questions or anything else that they want me to go over, or does anyone have anything to discuss? Oh, yay! I downloaded the MAL Inupiaq app. Would Uyan be Uyan? Uyan. I think you're probably correct the spelling, Cindy. I'd have to sit here, like it takes, I like to sit and think for a while before I tell someone how to spell something, but I think you're about in the right neighborhood for Uyan. How to say great grandma? I think I hear some dialects say Amau, A-M-A-U. And from Facebook, Clarissa Madsen, I love your word of the day videos. Oh, thank you, Clarissa. I appreciate that. I really appreciate everybody's time and everybody that, you know, comes up to me and they'll say they like my words of the day video, or, you know, just thanking me for helping expose others or teaching others what I know. I'm always transparent. I'm not fluent. I'm not gonna lie and say I am, but if someone wants to know something, I am so happy to help you find that information, or I'm happy to teach you what I know, because I think that is important. That's one of our Inupiaq values, is to share knowledge. Inupiaq is like 3 or more Inupiaq people, and Inupiaq is like the language or one Inupiaq person. Oh, thank you, everybody.
Someone said, I would love to be kept in the loop about the class you'll be teaching. This is just great. We will be adding the resources to the BSNC website, so I encourage you all to look there to be kept up on, you know, different resources and classes. We'll put Gail's class on there. And if you have any additional resources, feel free to email us, media@beringstreets.com, and we can get those added.
And so for next week, my kind of plan is to go over like counting 1 through 10, talking about like the words for the days of the week, trying to share a little bit about like the months of the year. And if anyone else has any other suggestions, please email me, or, you know, us, reply to the email that Anna sends out. I remember you, Pi. Okay, I remember who you are. I'm pretty sure we're cousins.
We shared a video that Gail recorded of her counting to 10 So if you're brave and want to record yourself counting to 10 and send BSNC a message, we'll enter you into winning a Bering Strait book bundle.
Ooh, that is so
So
cool.
we want to see those videos, send them our way. Was it Amber? You can talk to or count to 25.
25.
We want to see you.
Yay. Well, before everybody has to start logging off again, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you so much to Bering Straits for allowing me to do this and share with you what I know. I really have been enjoying this, and I'm not nervous like I was last week.
You did great last week too.
Thank you.
Well, looks like there are no more questions. Thank you, everyone. BSNC is very pleased to be hosting this language workshop. And again, we're very appreciative to you, Gail, for sharing your time and knowledge. And Kuyana, everyone, for attending today. Remember, this is recorded and it will be on BSNC's Facebook page and YouTube page. And our third workshop will take place next Friday at noon at the same time. So we look forward to that one next week.
Ooh, that, yes, I'm excited. Sorry.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Brianna,
Bye, everybody. Have a
Bye.
good day.
Happy Friday.
Yay.